For those of you who think that you need another certification, this live is for you, especially if you want to go into business. This is Dr. V, and we are teaching nurses. So let's get it. Hello, fellow nurse entrepreneurs. One of the things that I've always wanted to do was always wanted to help nurses work from anywhere, pretty much have the flexibility, pretty much have their freedom so that they could do whatever they wanted to do.
Joining VP Nursing was one of the best decisions that I could have ever made. If I was to have a regret, it would be that I didn't join sooner.
If they wanted to be with their children, if they wanted to be with their families, they can do exactly what they wanted to do.
Ola is the type of person, she's not going to let you stay the same. The way she levels up her clients in every area of their lives.
I could not have imagined being a nurse with my own business, being in this space with so many amazing people, with a coach that 1,000,000% cares about what my outcome is going to be.
And so here at VP Nursing, we teach nurses how to work from their computers anywhere around the world, making money, owning their own time, building profitable nurse coaching, consulting, and service-based businesses. And so now we're at the beach and we're working at the beach and we're having a great time. We're doing a brand photo shoot. It's an amazing time. So if you want to learn how to work from anywhere around the world, creating that flexibility, creating that freedom for yourself, but monetizing the knowledge that you already have, join us at VP Nursing Business Academy. Good evening. Good evening. Just turned evening for everyone. So I wanted to talk about you and these certifications because, I'm the one who's degreed up and I'm the one who's certified up. I've got several certifications, and I'll tell you a little bit about the certifications, and I'll tell you the reason why I believe in the way that I do. Now, there's nothing wrong with getting certifications, but let me explain to you that if you are in business and you don't understand the 3 levers of business, which is marketing, sales, and operations, then regardless of how it runs, the business will not run for you in the way in which you need it to run for you. I think that I'm going to do it like this in order to be able to, so that you'll be able to see it. So I'm going to go to the screen with the PowerPoint, and we're going to kind of go from there. Okay. Because it's important for you to understand these concepts. Let me do this for just a second. Okay. Because I think that we can probably go from another. We're going to stop sharing just for a second. And then we're going to share again the actual PowerPoint so that we can ensure that you can actually see it, because that's my goal, is for you to be able to see the actual PowerPoint. Okay, so here we go. So this is super, super important. So stay tuned for it, because it's gonna the goal for it is to change your life. So you don't need another certification, you need a different table. So of course everything is our rights are reserved by us. Now, nurses are some of the most credentialed professionals in the world. So I'll tell you this, I didn't really think and I think at the core of who I am, from the very beginning, I understood the certifications. I didn't really understand certifications. Like, this guy came in, he was like, I remember working in the emergency department way back when I worked in this little emergency department in Tarboro, North Carolina. And this guy came in and he said, I'm certified as an emergency nurse. And I was like, so what does that mean? And he was like, I'm certified. Like, he couldn't even tell me the reason why that meant a thing, right? So fast forward to years later, we were supposed to go to this conference, and they said that they would pay for the conference if we get our certification in emergency nursing. So I studied for the test and ended up, failing it like by 1 or 2 points that first time, and was hot about it because I was like, are you kidding me? And then went back and ended up passing the test and ended up going on the trip. And I only did it so that I could go on the trip, right? And what I've realized during that time is that the certification, while it gave me a little bit more knowledge, it really did not do anything for my professional degree. Like, it didn't. Like, I was still a charge nurse. I was still doing the same thing that I was doing. It didn't help me a whole bunch, right? As it relates to the certification. I didn't make more money. I mean, I made maybe 25 more cents an hour, right? But as it relates to how much you normally make, like, that's not a whole lot of money. Now, many of you are still overworked, which is what I was, underpaid and unheard. I was like that, right? I had all those things. I thought that going back to school and get all these degrees would make a difference, and it didn't. Right? It made a little bit of difference. Like I was able to pull the curtain back on healthcare and really understand that healthcare was not what I really thought it was. What it was. Right? It was a little bit different than what I originally thought. The issue isn't skill, it's proximity to power. And that's the reason why it's important for you to come to the Millionaire Nurse CEO conference. The nursing lie that we're sold is just, if you get just one more certification, doors will open. Listen, let me tell you something. I thought that for years. I thought if I just get one more certification, give me one more certification, give me one more degree. And that's the reason why. Like, even with my John Maxwell certification, I thought, well, that's going to open the door for me. And it didn't, because I didn't understand how marketing, sales, and operations went. It wasn't until I got into different rooms that I started to understand, okay, this is what, this is how you build this. This is the thing. These are the things that you do. Another thing is, you just comply longer, leadership will see you. Cool, child. That's the loyal nurse right there, right? The one who thinks that if I just stay quiet, if I stay put, if I stay grateful, it's going to make a difference. And it never did. It never made any difference. Now it's making a difference in my patients' lives. And so it was satisfying at the time, but it wasn't until I understood that I needed to make a difference in my own life. I needed to make a difference in my own family's life that things started to change. If you prove yourself again, you'll be respected. Nurses keep investing, but their returns stay capped. And that's what I do. So reality check for nurses. Certifications increase competence, not control. I want you to understand that. It increases competence, but not control. Degrees don't guarantee decision-making power. And that was probably one of the hardest things that I ever had to learn. I thought getting this doctoral degree would make such a difference. And I remember being in school, and I remember having she was actually helping me she was doing my editing, because whenever you go through your doctoral degree, like, you have this basically a daggone book, right? You have in this 5 chapters, right? And with each chapter, then you have to ensure that you are, that it's edited, it's got to be right? Because they'll send it back to you back and forth. And so I had an editor, and she had 2 doctoral degrees. And I remember right in the middle of that doctoral degree, and I was saying, well, they better give me another position. And she said to me, and it almost like it busted my bubble. She said to me, just because you get this doctoral degree don't mean the door is going to open. That don't mean that you're going to get the position. That has nothing to do with it. And I was like, really? And she was like, yeah. And so I then had to understand, it was like it was eye-opening for me. And once I understood that, because what I wanted to do initially was I wanted to become a chief nursing officer. And not because I necessarily wanted to make more money. Obviously, I want to make more money, but I wanted to make a bigger impact, because I wanted nurses to be taken care of like they needed to be taken care of, right? I wanted to make that impact. I also wanted the patients to be taken care of. I wanted to work on the front end, being proactive in patients' healthcare as opposed to being reactive in healthcare. And it was just not that way. And once I found out that titles don't equal ownership, and that it doesn't matter, you still have somebody telling you what to do. And those people who are telling you what to do, especially when I saw the COO and he said that we don't want to keep patients out of the hospital. Like, what are we doing this for? Like, we don't want to keep patients out of the hospital. And what I realized is that we're in the money-making business. And I realized that I'm just a pawn in that. And I had to realize that nurses are trained to execute, not to own. That's one of the reasons why I'm really, really good at executing, right? But I am excellent at owning as well, because you need to own. This is exactly why nurses need to be in the room where decisions are made. You need to be in a room where other people are making decisions, so that you can have that thought process, that you can start to lean into that, right? Because ownership makes the entire difference as to how you roll, right? How you work. Now, what the table really means, okay? This is the one thing that I do know, is that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. I want to say that again. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Now, I used to not get that, right? Who decides budgets, right? Who decides pay? Who sets strategy? Who controls timelines and outcomes? The owner, right? And I remember I walked into a room and I was so disheartened by this because I really looked up to this particular leader. And she said, it is not your job to, what did she say? She said, it's not your job to please the nurses. Well, as the managers, whose job is it? Like, it's your job. It is absolutely your job. It is your job to maintain the culture of your organization. It is your job to ensure that the nurses are getting what they need in order to be able to perform their jobs in the way that they need to perform. And when she said that, it was so dismissive. And I said, well, okay, let me find out something. This is not really where I want to be. And that's when I knew that I had to make my exit plan. Nurses are rarely invited to this table, even in healthcare. Rarely invited, because there are people, let me explain this to you, okay? There are people who are at those, like the COO that I had, he never, like he hadn't went to nursing school, but his daddy was the CEO of another hospital. And that's how he got to where he was, right? Because he knew that healthcare was booming business. In the US, it's a booming business. It is what it is, right? But understanding that it's a booming business, typically, sometimes, not all the time, typically, sometimes on the backs of people who are not, like, the impact is not being made, which is what we want to do. Now, nurses is full of talent, empty of power. Let's say that again. Full of talent, empty of power. Nurses solve problems daily, but they don't own the solutions, right? We are consulted after decisions are made. We're asked to implement, not design. That is not a skill gap. That is a positioning gap. Okay. I want you to understand that. Now, why more credentials don't fix things? Certifications keep you in execution mode. They increase workload without increasing leverage. When you're in your own business, you have the leverage. You have the ability to do the things that you need to do. They train you to follow systems, not build them. Okay? The system benefits, the nurses stay stuck. Be clear about that. Now, I'm here to explain to you the reason why it is so important for you to own your own business, because you know how to execute. You make decisions all the time. I remember a doctor came to me one time, and it was this young lady, and she was she was very young. Okay. She had just gotten pregnant. She didn't even know she was pregnant. She came in with what's called round ligament pain. And when she got into the room, he wanted to give her this medication. He prescribed this medication, which was an uncommon medication that we rarely gave in the emergency department, but he gave us. I was convinced that he had some stock in the company or something. I don't know what was going on with that. However, but he wanted to give her this medication. This medication was a pregnancy category D drug. Now let's be clear. There's A, B, C, D. A, okay, is good for the baby. B is, is kind of getting out there. But C and D, you should never give to anybody who is pregnant unless the benefits outweigh the risk, right? They're going to die if they don't get the medication. I knew that she had round ligament pain. They had an ultrasound. The ultrasound was fine. He wanted to give her this medication. This is where you get to make decisions outside of that. I said, I'm not giving that medication. And I, at first, because, I try not to be confrontational. Not that I mind being confrontational. Just be clear about that, okay? But I try not to be confrontational. I said, well, I don't feel comfortable giving this medication. I had preceptee at that time. I needed to teach her right. And so I said, I don't feel comfortable giving this medication. And he said, well, it's the only thing that's going to work for her. Well, I'm not giving it. He knew that if he went up to someone else and tried to get them to give that medication, then he wouldn't get the medication. They wouldn't give the medication. So I was like, nah, bro, that's not what's going to happen. And so at the Millionaire, these are when decisions are made, right? These are times when you make the decision, you own your power, you own your patience, right? You're not here to perform for someone else. Because at the end of the day, you have to make the decision that's right for your patients. That's the reason why doctors don't give medications. I mean, they give a few, but they don't give them all, right? And even when they give the medications, 9 times out of 10, they can't even get into the Pyxis. Like a nurse has to get in there in order to give them the medication, right? But that's the reason why. It's because you are making a decision to say, this is good for the patient. And the same way in which you need to make the same decisions in your business. This is good for the business. That's how ownership. You owned your decision in healthcare. You are owning your decisions in your business. Same way, right? And executing upon that same thing. At the Millionaire Nurse CEO Conference, we show nurses how to shift from execution to ownership without getting another degree. Okay, which is very, very important. Now, the nurses who break free do one thing differently. They stop chasing credentials, because it's not about credentials, right? Like, I'm still certified as an emergency nurse, but I don't really need to be honest. I still have certifications. I still have my doctoral degree, obviously. I still have my RN license, but I don't need it. I don't need any of that, because at the end of the day, I know who I am. I remember being on a flight one time, and this lady, she's probably 20 something years old. Anyway, she had sickle cell anemia. And so she ended up passing out because her hemoglobin was low. We later found that out. But in the process, she passed out. So the first thing that you need to do whenever you have a patient that passed out is you need to check the blood sugar, because blood sugar is the first thing that you check, because they can be killing brain cells during that time. So sure enough, I tried to get the blood sugar checked, because they call for healthcare personnel, professionals. So I said, I need something to check. And this lady was like, I need to see some credentials. I need to see some credentials. Well, lady, you call me. Okay? You call me. And I don't have a paper credentials. We are in 2025. What that means is that you need to look it up on Google. And unfortunately, when I get on these planes, I go to sleep. I don't even know how to get on Google. Okay. So if you can get on Google, you can look me up, because you can look me up. You can find me anywhere. Dr. Viola Pierce. I am everywhere. You look me up on the Board of Nursing website. They will tell you who I am. If you look my name up on Google, it will tell you who I am. Right? So I don't chase credentials anymore. And start building proximity to decision makers. Last night I'm in a room today, right? Last night I was I took a picture with Kathy Hughes, first publicly traded company by a Black woman. She is the bomb.com. She said, the last conference, she said, I am not going to pay you and kiss your ass too. Hilarious. Okay. She is amazing. But in order for me to get in the room next to her, I needed to go to this conference, right? So you want to be in proximity to people who are making decisions. They learn how money actually moves. That is the number one thing that literally has changed my life, because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand how money moves. And I didn't understand the trickery that people play, okay, when it comes to money. Because, my pastor said, and I didn't realize this, okay, now I knew that our church was making money. I used to be on the finance team. So I knew it was making a pretty good doggone dime, right? And they went to 6 different banks trying to expand to what's called now the CPAW, Centers for Praise and Worship is what it's called, right? But it's like a big, almost arena looking, which is where we worship at today, right? But at that time, we were worshiping in what's now our fellowship hall, like a small area, right? But we needed to expand, and because we needed to expand, we needed a loan to expand. And he went to 6 different banks. Now, some of y'all will go to one bank and you don't get it. But what happens is when you're in different rooms and you understand it, you hear things like that, then what happens is you're like, well, this may be the normal thing that I have to go to in order to make it work. Because some of you would have quit after that first time. Some of you would have quit after that second time. Some of you would have quit after that third time. The reality is that you don't need to quit. Like I'm gonna ask you over and over and over again until you get to where you need to be. They sit in rooms with business owners, not just clinicians. This is super, super important for you to understand this. Now, we're going to run a commercial for you for right now, and then we're going to come back, okay?
Stop renewing your license just to stay broke. Every renewal season, nurses pay fees, take classes, and check boxes, but never build wealth. That license you're renewing every 2 years, it's a gold mine if you stop using it the old way. At the Millionaire Nurse CEO Conference, you'll learn how to leverage that same license to build your own business, to coach, to consult, and to create offers that bring freedom, not fatigue. And yes, you'll still earn CEUs. Comment conference below and we'll send you the details.
All right, let's get back to it. We're going to finish this out. I think this is it right here. Let's pray. Okay, let's pray. All right, yeah, we're back. All right, now different tables, different conversations, revenue, not ratios. Okay, strategy, not staffing. We shouldn't be here long. Equity, not overtime, right? Ownership, not permission. Because people think, well, I have to have permission. No. This is where CEOs operate, right? So nursing was never the problem. The system limits nurses on purpose, right? On purpose. Hospitals profit from compliance, not innovation. Listen to that. Nurses with solutions threaten broken systems, okay? I remember my mother went into the hospital, and this is a true story. She went into the hospital. She was allergic. Now, mind you, this is the same electronic health record, right? She went into the hospital and she was allergic to this particular medication. And so I went upstairs, and this was after she had been in the hospital. Now she was hurting. And so they were giving her some pain medicine, but it was just kind of weird how she was just sleeping like all the time. Right. And we listed this medication as an allergy simply because it put her out. It put her down. Like she could not eat. She could not function. She couldn't do anything. Right. And so we listed this as an allergy. And so when I went upstairs, come to find out, this particular medication was being given to her. So what I tried to do was I tried to change how the entering of the medication and how it was seen as she went through the system. Because what was happening is they saw the allergy as a medication as an allergy when she was in the emergency department. Well, they asked her about her allergies when she got to the floor, and different information was given because I was given the information when she was in the ER. When she got to the floor, somebody else was given the information. So when she got to the floor, then that information was the other information was taken out. Anyway, so I was like, she's allergic to that. So why are you giving that? And let me tell you something. When I tried to change the way that was done, nobody would change it. Nobody would change it at all. And it ended up being something that I literally was sickened by. And I tried to change it over and over and over again, and it never worked. And so that's the reason why I'm very intentional about being with my family members whenever they're in the hospital. I won't leave. So, but I was one coming with the solution. But they had to do a little bit of work in order to make it happen. And I'm not saying that happens every time, because it doesn't. There are times when our, opinions are taken seriously. But because this was like they literally had to change the system wide, they weren't unwilling to do it, right? And somebody's going to die because of that. It just is what it is. I know that they're going to die. And when they die, then they'll change it. But we shouldn't have to get there. Like, we should already be there. Business ownership gives nurses autonomy. If you're ready to stop asking for permission and start building leverage, the Millionaire Nurse CEO Conference is your next move. Okay. What happens when nurses change tables? Income is no longer tied to your shifts. Expertise becomes a paid asset. It is a paid asset. And I know it seems like woo-woo, whatever, right? But the reality is that once you understand sales, marketing, and operations, then it literally changes the game about how you can move. Work can be done from anywhere. I am literally in Duluth, Georgia, and I am able to perform this live. I'm not tied to anywhere, right? The last live I was in Ghana. The next one I'll be in Rocky Mount, probably. Okay. Time is owned, not borrowed. Impact increases, burnout decreases. I love what I do. This is why the room matters more than social media. Growth accelerates in proximity. I'm telling you, it is something about being in the room that literally changes people's lives. And I never understood it, right? Because I'm not that person, right? I don't have to be necessarily be in the room at times. But I found out that I am that person. That's what I thought at that time. Decisions happens in rooms, not comments. Confidence grows when you see what's possible, and nurses need real examples, not inspirations of people that are changing lives. What's the conference? What the conference room gives you: access to six and seven figure nurses CEOs, real business models nurses are using now, conversations hospitals never taught us, because they don't teach you how to coach and consult. They don't teach you how to build service-based businesses. They don't teach you how to do these things. And there are people out here who are not nurses, who are building businesses that are nursing related, that are making a killing, and you're sitting back and not doing that. I'm just saying that all day long. Clarity on how to move from nurse to CEO. If you're done collecting certifications and ready to collect opportunities, join us at the Millionaire Nurse CEO Conference. And this is the final truth. You are already qualified. You are already experienced. You are already capable. You just need a different table. Okay? Nurses don't need more proof. They need more power. Power comes from ownership. Ownership starts with proximity. The room matters. It matters where you are. It matters how you see this thing. So comment table down below, okay, and we'll send you over the details to our next live training for the Millionaire Nurse CEO Conference. Now, I look forward to seeing y'all at the conference. Listen, don't play, because let me tell you something. This is a game-changing room. A game-changing room. You guys have a phenomenal rest of your day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.